Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Anirban Ghoshal, and apologies right out of the gate for making you wait for this wonderful session, which is, of course, under the aegis of ET Unwired. And the session is called Building a Dynamic and Sustainable Digital Enterprise with the view and theme of sustaining the pace of digital transformation. Let me begin today's session with a quote that resonates the very fiber of what we're going to discuss today. Tim O'Reilly, founder and CEO of O'Reilly Media, had once said that every industry and every organization will have to transform itself in the next few years. What is coming at us is bigger than the original internet, and you need to understand it, get on board with it, and figure out how to transform your business. Digital transformation clearly is an evolution than a revolution, and it continues to be a critical mission in the IT decision makers charter. However, it is unique to each company, and there is not a standard strategy or practice to adopt. And perhaps that is why many digital transformation journeys fail. As per a BCG study, only 30% of digital transformation journeys are successful. It is not 100% sure that a digital transformation strategy would work. Maybe a part of it will work, maybe none of it. We need to make sure before we even start planning about the transformation what strategies we're going to take. There are different ways of doing this. One such way is mentioned below. In today's dynamic world, digitization is not only a responsible move, but a necessary one to attract new business and remain competitive. Hence, it becomes critical that organizations manage a balance between agility and sustainable IT infra, which can stand the test of time. This panel discussion will also cover a sustainable digital transformation approach that includes understanding the current state of the enterprise and changing with the right transformation strategy that accounts for people, processes, and technologies, enabling a managed digital estate across SD-WAN and network, collaboration, hybrid multi-cloud architectures, and connected security from clouds to edge. Our focus discussion areas will include transformation objectives and benefits, scope of transformation effort, IT foundation to support the transformation. With that, let me introduce the speakers for today's discussion. First, Mr. Urjit Banerjee, Senior Vice President and Head, India Region, Tata Communications, Mr. Binod Bhatt, Chief Information Officer, Vistara, Tata SIA Airlines, Mr. Gagan Singla, Chief Digital Officer, HDFC Securities, and last but not the least, Mr. Subrata De, CIO, Godrej Consumer Products. And the moderator for today's session, the ever so eloquent Biswajit Das, Director, KPMG. Over to you, Biswajit.
Thank you, Honorable. I think that is all as articulate as it gets on the topic that we're talking about. Arijit, Vinod, Gagan, Subrat, brilliant to see you guys again. It's been a while, right? And as Anirban was saying, digital has been at the top of this entire hype curve for a while now, right? It's not just recent. And while there are many proven cases of enterprises, successful enterprise-wide digital transformation, till around a couple of years back, unfortunately, some of these initiatives were also being done in isolation as pilots, that entire chicken and egg thing. Will put money if it can demonstrate value, need money to demonstrate value. So that entire conundrum. And sometimes even just by FOMO, everyone else is doing it, we need to do something, etc., etc. But of course, like I said, a great many organizations took a very pragmatic, planned, and thought out approach and have been reaping the benefits. But I think while whichever way you look at it, the pandemic has been bad for all of us. I think one of the few silver linings, one obviously has been that Mother Earth got a moment to take a breath, right? And the second, I think one of the silver linings have been that over the last 18 odd months, we've seen a frantic race among organizations to scale up their digital transformation efforts. And while most organizations were already in some phase of this journey, the pandemic just accelerated the urgency of getting more and more parts of our businesses onto digital ecosystems. Having said that, much of the transformation efforts in many cases have been to address the here and now challenges and opportunities, as it should have been, given that none of us were really planning for the pandemic to happen. So therefore, quick and efficient in terms of both development and deployment were the magic words. And we have seen many instances of how this has made a great positive impact in some, and in some cases, even major changes in how organizations are now doing business. However, this also means that quite a few organizations today have a spread out diverse range of digital initiatives, either in flight or completed, and which are loosely bound together, not necessarily tightly coupled to their overall digital transformation strategy. And again, this is not necessarily a bad thing. While I'm not undermining the importance of a long-term roadmap, in digital, implementation will always eat strategy for breakfast, right? And so at some point of time in the very, very near future, many organizations will have to pause to collect their breaths from this, entire adrenaline fueled bedlam, multiple asynchronous digital gold rush. It's inevitable, it will happen. And that's when I think from a sustainability and cohesiveness of a digital ecosystem point of view, a slightly bigger challenge will have to be faced. How do we ensure that it all remains stitched together within the umbrella of a larger long-term digital ambitions without any slacking in the pace of obviously new transformation, right? So first, Arijit, I think hopefully, I know Arijit, you're a devoted family man, right? And food, friends, family, very important things to you. So hopefully, because of this forced lockdown, you've been able to spend a little more time doing what you love best. But also the question arises in this from personal experience, Arjit, having been forced into sustained proximity to you, does the family still reciprocate those feelings in full strength? I think you're on mute, Arjit.
I'm sorry. Firstly, very good afternoon to everyone who joined the call today, and hope everyone is keeping safe. I think it's interesting, yes, and sometimes I think that when things come back to normal after a few months, we will start missing these days again, right? But yeah, it has been an interesting last 1.5 years, and good and bad. I think all of us have learned to adapt. A lot of positives that have kind of been taken away from being at home all the time. But yes, I think all of us are learning to go back to work full time, and hoping things will come back to normal.
Yes, I absolutely agree, Arjit. I never thought we'd see the day, right, when we are looking forward to the days when we'll still go back to those old days of office and travel and all of that. But there has been an acceleration in digital adoption across enterprises in India. However, there are also conversations around maturing your digital first strategies to digital smart, right? Because the whole conversation about being digital first, now we're saying, how do you become smart about that thing? How do you really define this maturity? And how do you see this curve being played out by organizations at different stages of their journey and at different levels?
Digital transformation, obviously, all of us know, has been on the CEO agenda for many years now. And COVID is kind of acting as a compelling reason to act with urgency, like you mentioned, right? What was also driving the acceleration, which has nothing to do with the current time, is the convergence of many technologies that kind of started happening a few years back, the cloud, the AI, 5G, 3D printing, robotics, etc., all coming together and disrupting almost every industry we can think of. And over the last few years, the journey of digital adoption, because of this, for many organizations, have landed themselves into a kind of a disjointed enterprise IT environment across various business functions. Now, this is mainly due to a few reasons. One, the different factors that were considered for their cloud and network deployment across disparate business initiatives. Second, how they really embedded security within these independent initiatives. And lastly, the lack of a unified workforce collaboration strategy. Now, digital smart is really about the ability to create a connected ecosystem, internally and externally, offering consistent experiences across the enterprise value chain, and most importantly, I think build trust, again, with both internal and external stakeholders. And each one of these will be an outcome of how integrated your digital environment is, including the hybrid multi-cloud estate, the network estate, the workforce collaboration platform, and the overall layer of security that cuts across the enterprise architecture. Now, the path of digital adoption is going to be very unique for every organization. And as per a recent survey, which we, Tara Communication, did globally, we categorize companies into 3 buckets on their maturity level on the pace of digital transformation. Firstly, we have the aspirants who are kind of still shifting gears to a digital first environment, but the approach is still in silos transformation, like I outlined earlier. And many times converting disparate offline processes to online independently, which may often lead to kind of broken overall customer journeys that impair their overall transformation pace. Then we have the migrators who have started the journey in the right earnest on time and have made good progress. They do have a defined vision of a connected digital ecosystem encompassing their operating models, their processes, customers, partners, and employees. However, I think they need to take a leap of faith and accelerate this integrated journey that will then start finally impacting their key business drivers. Then comes the leading pack, who we call the Trailblazers. These organizations have actually made digital mainstream, pioneered with digital operating models, and set up digital platforms to influence businesses directly, either through market expansions or product innovations, finally leading to revenue growth. These enterprises are also kind of changing the conversation to future business enablers like digital trust and hyper-connected ecosystems. What sets them apart and ahead is really their maturity and understanding of how digital first and digital smart strategies would redefine customer experience, enable better collaboration, and drive operating efficiency. Just to conclude, the study also showed that 63% of the digital trailblazers actually grew their revenue in the COVID times.
I think one of the things that you really spoke about, right? Also, because of this entire hyper-connectedness of how this entire hyper-convergence happened, one of the reasons why at many, at some point of time, organizations were having difficulties was also because how organizations were structured. So we were segregated by technologies because those were set to be very different, streams of their own. So network would sit in isolation. Rest of technologies and platforms, your AI/MLs would be a different world altogether. But the new normal is to have a convergence among all of these, like we said, right? Hyperconnectedness is the one thread which weaves through all of that, right? And I think the other interesting thing that you brought up is the trailblazers, right? I think the simplistic view is to say, can I look up to the trailblazers if I am not one of them, and can I see what they did and can I replicate? That need not necessarily be true, simply because today we don't need to go through a lot of the learning curve that they went through. We can leapfrog directly to the front of the line, because if you're going to spend money now, you're going to spend money on what is current now, what is edgy now, right? Rather than going through that entire thing. Vinod, I'm not sure if we should call you Sir Vinod, because along with the other plethora of awards that have been given to you for recognizing your contribution, you've also received the Knight of the Town award from GE Electrics. So do we call you Vinod? Do we call you Sir Vinod? I just wanted to get that off the list first.
Absolutely fine, Vinod.
Okay, Vinod, you are a part of my absolute favorite airlines in the world, right? And it has a lot of reasons why that, but I think the way you treat your customers is absolutely fabulous, right? I also really like your mandate. It is very simply articulated, and we were talking about this, right? And it's also very all-encompassing. The mandate is improve operational excellence, transform infrastructure, elevate the Vistara experience. I think that's a brilliant way of articulating a mandate. But the airline, along with the rest of the hospitality industry, has been one of the hardest hit by the pandemic. And I think Vistara did a brilliant job of weathering the storm. So what reserves of resilience that Vistara really have to call upon during these challenging times, and what makes Vistara so resilient?
Okay, first of all, good afternoon and thank you for hosting me, Biswajit, Dirban, and to see Arjit also talking. See, if you look at, as you rightly said, Biswajit, that airline industry was really hard hit by the pandemic, and last 1.5 years have been nothing short of roller coaster, and it's continuing. But from Vistara point of view, we have been on the clouds since day one. So you can imagine 6-7 years back when the airline came into existence. So the right decision which was taken at that time was that if you have to start from scratch, why don't we look at the emerging technologies at that time? And the decision was taken to go on the cloud, and that really helped us during the pandemic. So we had all the good things which come along with the cloud architecture, in terms of availability, in terms of right use, in terms of managing demand supply, in terms of active sites. So all that features I think really helped us. And when the pandemic came, there were requirements coming not only from the pandemic because the hygiene and safety factors were changing, but also from the regulatory bodies. And we were really given very short notice to implement those changes. For example, all the touchless services, e-boarding, call of self-baggage. We're talking about now biometric and all that. So how do we get these things quickly incorporated without, I would say, impacting the customer experience? And what is the right cost and value equation? Because at the end of the day, pandemic, you need to really be very careful on how are you leveraging, sweating your assets, and not compromising on the brand, not compromising on the customer experience, not compromising on the expectations. And how do we leverage our architecture and best of the technologies which are available? I think I would say that from resiliency point of view and adaptability point of view, I think we have really tested this and it has really done well. And we are further enhancing it. So several of those solutions which you see today have been because of that. And we have been able to deliver those on time, and we have been able to enhance it further. So as we are not yet out of the woods, but I think we are really geared up for the new norm, where we look at the technologies all, I would say, on a larger canvas. Whether it is cloud is one, analytics we look very, very closely. We look at AI, we look at automation and things like that. And wherever we need to use those I would say technologies to solve the customer problem, business problem. When I say, see all these technologies, all the innovations which you are talking about in Vistara, they have to have an end goal of satisfying the business. So where they're right, obviously there will be some technology projects, a lot of this which you really focus on building the future proof technologies. But the I would say short term and midterm goals that how it is helping business. And when I talk about business, I'm talking about the web-based applications, mobile-based applications. I'm talking about channels. I'm talking about the oral experience, and also the multi-cloud environment which you have got. It's not only one cloud. So how do we leverage that? I think Araji talked about security, which is horizontal across. So how do we leverage the security? How do we leverage, when I say security, it's about data security, info security, cyber security. So I think we are, I would say the new rules of the game, we have started learning it. Good news is that we had started playing this game a little early. So we got a little bit headroom for, getting the understanding of the environment a little better. I think we're making sure that we focus.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you said is very important for all organizations today remains tech safe, right? It either has to make you money or save you money. If it's not due to regulatory compliance reasons, I think that's very important. We also, we are hoping that in the very near future, again, you'll be back up to full inventory again. Things will start coming back to normal. But I'll come back and talk a little more about what you're doing at Vistara. Subroto, I wanted to bring you into this. You and Arijit have something in common. I don't know if you know this. Both of you keep saying food plays a big part in our lives. But Subroto, I also know your absolute love for football. And with both the Euro and the Copa America in the final, heart-pounding stages, I'm guessing like me, you will also be a little sleep deprived, having to catch one match at 12:30 in the night, another at 6:30 in the morning. But honestly, Argentina, Brazil, I mean, how mouth-watering is that? I mean, it's like a fantasy match, right, Subroto? Okay, did we lose Subroto for a moment? No worries.
Sorry,
we'll come back.
We'll
come back. Gagan, I think.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry.
We were just talking about your love football. We're hoping you're looking forward to the final.
Sorry. Yeah, I was on mute. I didn't realize that. So, okay. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And, it's a pleasure for me to be here with you all today. Yes, no, Bishwajit, you are right. Like, I love watching football, and I think last couple of weeks I've been watching both Copa America and Euro. In fact, yesterday night also I was watching this Italy, England versus the Denmark match, till late, till actually early morning, not late night. Actually, it's till early morning. And I'm also waiting to see the final matches, right? On TV, waiting to watch those final matches of Copa America as well as at the Euro. It's fascinating. It will be very fascinating to watch actually Brazil versus Argentina. I hope that will be an epic match. All of us football lovers will love that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Personally, I'm a big fan
Yes.
of Brazil, but
I also think it's
this time I will want actually Argentina to win the match because of Lionel Messi.
I agree. It's a dual pull, right? Lionel Messi versus Brazil. But I also think it's a great testament to how digital has changed our normal lives also. I mean, I am streaming these matches. I'm not watching them on TV. That's how much digital has actually invaded all our lives, right? But Gagan, having said that, financial, sorry, Subrat, Godrej has been going about their digital transformation for quite a while now, right? And we thought we'll take some of your thoughts on that entire digital transformation journey that you've gone through.
Sure, sure. As Arijit has mentioned, like, the digital has been there for quite some time, right? I think, and like many companies, we also started our digital journey, quite a few years ago. And we are still, on that journey, I would say, right? Because on digital, I think there is nothing called like, end state, right? This will be always evolving state, and you are on your journey, right? Because things will evolve, technology will evolve, right? We will find out better ways of doing things, correct? So I think, for us, we started our journey quite some time ago, but what has happened in the last, probably, 18 months, it has, like in many companies, for us also, it has, the COVID has actually accelerated this, like, we have found out new ways of working, right from like, everybody working from home, that's becoming almost a new normal now. Now we are also thinking of how do we actually go back to a kind of a hybrid kind of an environment where some people will work from home and some people will work from office and vice versa. Like today, for example, I'm sitting in office and working from office today, right? But while my colleagues are working from home, right? So that will be the new normal, right? All of us are aware of that. But I think the key point is, apart from this work from anywhere, which will be the new norm of the day. I think there are many things, right? I would say, like, in digital, the key thing is basically how do you actually use digital technologies, right, to enhance your customer experience. How do you use digital technologies to drive your business performance better by optimizing your cost, and and help the business to grow their revenue faster. I think and how do you actually use digital technologies to enhance employee experience, right? I think those are the key things, right? If you can identify, area of opportunities and then tie it up with the business, saying that, okay, how it is going to drive your business performance, right? Whether by improving productivity, by reducing cost, or helping the business to grow their revenues, right? And how can you actually help to make sure that, okay, your employees become much more productive, right? So I think that you need to identify, right? And once you identify that, right, and then tie it up with the long-term business goal, right? And then you go for that. It's not about only technology, it's about also understanding, right, the business processes, right? And then and see that how these digital technologies can help you to improve on some of these processes, right? So there are many things what we have done, in the last, few years. I would say we started with this mobile solutions, web applications, and all of that, and that has been there for many, many years, right? Don't think it is new, but I think the last few years, what has changed? Cloud has changed, the game, right? A lot of adoptions are happening on cloud. A lot of services are offered on cloud, and therefore I think it is offering and it is giving us a lot of agility to embrace these technologies, very, very quickly, try it out, see the benefits, and then scale it up, right? And I think that's where I see there are a lot of, things what are happening and a lot of good business values what we are getting in. The other area where what we are seeing is basically that Internet of Things technologies, right? There are several technologies like Internet of Things, right? We are applying those kind of technologies in our factory environment. We are using this, in some of our products, and the end result is to see that, okay, how we are able to, again, you know, enhance the user experience or the employee experience, or my customers experience, as well as also making sure in the factory, how can you make our factory people and the factory people much more productive? How can you make sure you are using some of these technologies to improve the quality of your products, right? So there are several use cases which we have found out. Yeah, and then we are seeing there are a lot of business benefits in many of those areas. The other area where what I want to also touch upon is basically the application of uh, AI and ML, right, in your analytics journey, right? Analytics is becoming a big thing now, right? With the advent of cloud technologies, right? And that big data and all of that, right? So it is, and if you are able to, apply and embrace your AI/ML technologies in your, in your environment, right? And you can apply it well, you can see significant benefits in many areas, right? Right from sales, marketing, supply chain, in all these areas. So we are using, most of these technologies in our businesses as of today, and we are seeing, good benefits, I would say, at this point in time.
So I absolutely believe one of the things that so you're right in many ways. I think two significant things that have really contributed is one, obviously the cloud, and not just the benefits of time to value as well as commercial arbitrage, but also I think more importantly the capabilities that cloud brings on board without you having to create net new every time. You're having the ability to experiment and quickly look at hypotheses. The other is the network, how the network capabilities have taken an exponential jump in what we are able to do today. I think very important. And obviously, like you said, analytics is what I like to think of as the sharp end of the spear. So you take everything, you take your no-code, low-code platforms, application development platforms, you take your traditional ERPs, CRMs, HRMSs, etc. You take your entire IIoT, and then the idea is how do I converge all of this to make sense out of this. While those are the ones running the core business, you take forward calls basis the data that you get from all of it.
Yeah, and also I think,
Gagan, I wanted to
sorry,
bring you
I
in
just,
here.
Vishnu, just want
FS
to add.
organizations have been at the forefront of leveraging digital. One of the very early adopters, I think, going so far as to today, many of them being fully digital native with almost no to minimal brick and mortar presence, right? I mean, you have been at the forefront of this charge. So tell us some of the interesting stuff that you've been doing around digital, Gagan.
Suji, that is for me, Gagan, or you're not talking to Subrata?
Gagan, to you, Gagan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So am I audible and clear?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think in the last few minutes we have touched upon, I think, a lot of very interesting topics, very interesting areas like collaboration, technology, I think customer experience, the whole AI, ML, and so on. So I think there's very limited things that I can talk about. So I will try to bring in one of the things that I kind of believe is important when it comes about sustaining the pace, because all of us know transformation is happening. We know that technology is changing drastically. The way cloud is bringing in, analytics is bringing in so many changes, right? But in order to be able to sustain the pace, I think internally we need to drastically change the way we as a team, as leadership, or as a company think and work, right? Traditionally, we have always talked about words like structure, streamline, right? Some of these things I think will go away, as we go and work in digital transformation in a more sustained way. These words like structure, streamline are more about the whole human tendency to control things, right? And traditionally it is a short code for hierarchy and control, right? I think that in order to sustain digital transformation as a culture, we will need to relinquish control drastically to the teams and to the customer, right? And as we start doing that, the whole way we work has to change, right? Like there has to be some amount of, and this will be like very probably a little controversial as it sounds to people, but we have to get comfortable with chaos, right? A lot of digital transformation is about significant amount of chaos, right? And ability to find the method in the madness on an ongoing basis, not trying to put a significant structure and streamline everything. I think that is the way you have to sustain as a company. So I completely, one of the things I keep on saying that the whole three pillars, people, process, technology is changing. It is the people is there, technology is there, but process fundamentally is going away. There is much more lesser number of processes now. It is more about collaboration and people innovating together. And culturally, we have to relinquish control now. And we really need to, control is not only about we and our teams, but it's also about customer. Traditionally, there will be some companies who control the industry. Now companies will control the industries less, the customer will control more. And you will see that the way people are able to now really do well by being a digital native, make money by just having good talent. Like you can actually make money on YouTube or TikTok, or there are people making money there without really having to have a connect or a network, or being able to have anything other than pure talent, right? So some of these things are fundamental to sustaining. And the one more thing I like to bring in, if you look at the Gen Z and whatever I have been reading and learning about Gen Z, like I think it will take us by storm, like in 5 to 10 years, when they become bigger and the way they think about working with a business, it will completely take us by storm. And many of us, I think maybe including me, we are not really fully prepared right now. We really have to learn and understand how they think, right? And so a lot of control will go away. Culturally, we have to change. We really need to relinquish control. We really need to understand that the way of culture has to change. That is how we'll sustain. Companies will not have structured processes. It will need to have a lot of loose processes, right? Where the focus is to do what the customer wants and what the customer needs. I think that's where I conclude. I think everything else is already covered.
So Gagan, I think very well articulated. A couple of things that I couldn't agree more with. I think how the next generation thinks is very different, right? Also because of the privileges that they've had when they were being brought up, etc., etc. I think, see, many of the myths have already been shattered, right? For example, this entire co-location, physical co-location being important to productivity is something that has totally gone out of the window in the last 18 months. Nobody even talks about that anymore. It used to be a huge matter of debate before, right? I love the fact that you talked about the chaos or seeming chaos. There is a method to the madness that's happening around. But I always say this, when you're going into a large transformation, digital transformation thing, things will get messier before they can become better, right? And one of the important things there is control, saying, I see CXOs getting very jittery because they do not seem to be able to have visibility on everything that's happening. But that is going to happen. If you want the change of pace to be absolutely brilliant, right? Then you cannot also expect to have an eye on everything by yourself. Right. This is it's counterintuitive, right? And therefore, yes, it's important, like you said, talent, right? Hire the right people, let them get on with the job, right? Give them what they need and let them get on with the job. And that I think is very important in everything that you do. Arijit, I wanted to come back to you. You spoke about this entire digital smart strategy, right? So how are these integrated conversations across the enterprise architecture happening today, or Jeet?
I think that's a very relevant question. So let's start with network transformation, right? We've talked about the important pillars of the overall digital transformation, starting with network. If you see today, discussions have really matured to bring aspects of convergence of network and security through SASE models. The focus is on enterprises being really able to manage direct to internet traffic, kind of create deterministic paths on the internet, which kind of revolutionizes the way you can manage the traffic on internet while still enjoying accessibility and cost benefits. Most of the organizations have moved the discussions from H.25 to internet lease lines to MPLS and now to software-defined network, right? On the security front, the historical posture of organizations were always based on having a very hardened perimeter around the DC. But with applications and data, as we see, increasingly moving from the traditional corporate perimeter into the public cloud or to the edge for the matter, it is now more about securing everything anywhere. It is about securing data at rest to securing data in motion. And the movement is also happening from an user and role-based authentication, which all of us were used to kind of a zero trust network access. On the unified collaboration part, the architecture discussions for global enterprises are moving from having pockets of excellence and islands of multiple OEMs to a single collaboration platform, which could be powered by the right artificial intelligence or RPA that can really give a homogeneous and omni-channel experience to their customers and employees. The cloud transformations, like we heard before, are not just limited to the cloud venue decisions and migration plans alone, but they now include the data and AI strategy, the network planning, the application affinity study, the interdependency mapping, and most importantly, embedding security and compliance from day zero. And now with 5G on the anvil, compute and data analytics moving from cloud to the edge, like I said, IoT taking center stage, I think the integrated technology stack for the new digital architecture will look more connected than ever.
And I couldn't agree with more. I think some of the good things that are happening is, like you said, right? A lot of it moving to the edge. I think that's going to be one of the things that businesses will, especially businesses which have a lot of IoT dependencies, I think they will really be able to take advantage of that, right? The other thing is, I think we will continue to advance the technological aspect of it in leaps and bounds, and every second day. This is the time when you have 366 updates in 365 days in any technology, right? And therefore that's going to be a reality. I think as important is our mindsets towards saying, this is something that we are committed to. This is how the business will only work in the future, and therefore do we keep looking around corners for what next, right? And for that also, Vinod, I wanted to come back to you and saying, how is Vistara planning to sustain this pace of transformation? What's next in terms of digital for you and Vistara?
Can you hear me? Yeah, because see, Vijit, I think if we now step back and look at, talk about how we responded to the pandemic, how we are actually, addressing that. But I think what we have done is that the operating model has changed. I think the whole way of services has changed. The entities have changed. If you look at the way customers were interacting with us, the way customers are now interacting with us. So there are different channels they're using. So the whole multi-channel strategy is being looked at. Whole customer experience is looked at when the customer is buying the tickets, when the customer is during the travel, and when the customer is finished the travel. So all the processes which are related with that are looked at. Similarly, all the flight operation related processes, the complete command center of flight ops and the ground services and the engineering and the safety and the regulatory affairs, everything is seen now because everything has got impacted one way or the other because of the situation we are in, and most of it for good reason, because it has given us really a great insight into the the data which we had never probably looked at holistically. For example, there is so much of data generated now, and it really gave us idea how to identify the unique customers. Because airline, it's not like you have to give us social security, Aadhaar number to book an airline ticket, right? Anybody can give probably name, phone number, and sometimes somebody else's phone number, and you just start the process. But how do you identify the customer who has booked a ticket 1 week back and he's going booking again, and he or she wants better treatment, same treatment, thinking that the airline will remember the preferences, they will remember where the person sits on the aisle seat, the person wants to have vegetarian meal and non-vegetarian meal and things like that. And the person we don't remember, the customer actually thinks that, oh, they don't worry, they don't. But the fact is that the data, the quality of data has to be looked at. So the whole AI logic which has been built to address this problem, so that we can really identify the whole customers. I think that is one example I'm mentioning here, so that the customer experience, which is obviously the flagship objective and mission of Vistara, I think that stays. I think that we don't compromise. Then second aspect of it, where technologies were really improving the digital spine of companies, that where you get a lot of data exchange between aircraft and the ground system. If you look at the whole, every takeoff and touchdown, there is a lot of data which is getting exchanged, and this data has to be acted in real time basis. Because if there is a data which is respect to the safety of it, you can't say that, you know what, oh, let this hop get completed and we can, it is Delhi to Mumbai and Mumbai to Chennai, I will look at Chennai. That option you don't have. So how do you now use that a real time basis analytics, collating the data, ingesting the data, and then take the call, so that the engineering team gets the right information at the right time. Same thing, safety team can get the right, and they can take the call whether the aircraft can fly or it has to be on the ground. That is the second. So you look at the all areas. So we looked at it wherever the digital interventions are needed. For example, from automation perspective, we're now pushing AI powered automation. It's not automation just for the sake of it, but when you're doing automation, where you can put the cognitive intelligence into it. Even in the cloud, we're moving from a cloud into cloud orchestration. So I think everywhere, wherever we see that there's an opportunity either to automate for better operational excellence or productivity, but more importantly, what is that insights we're getting? And once we get the insights, we really move from reactive to proactive to productive decision making. That's where we want to take our organization. And this whole, I would say, digital spine we talked about is looking at all the entities, all the business processes, all the architectures which we are talking about, and using the right technologies to address those problems and help get the benefit out of those technologies. I think you will see that in the next 12 to 18 months, a lot more things will shape up, and the benefit will be seen by the stakeholders.
So as a loyal Vistara flyer, I will look forward to reaping those benefits. I'm looking forward to getting back any which was on the air. I think the other thing, Subrato, I wanted to quickly come to you, and we spoke about this before. A lot of companies face challenges in scaling up proof of concepts and pilots to full-fledged, operational deployments. How does an organization manage those challenges?
Yeah. So as you rightly said, right, like, it's it's very easy to do a, proof of concept and, demonstrate the technology works, right? But I think what is important, right, for the business is to identify, opportunity areas and a strong business case where you think, you can apply digital, which can actually give you a significant amount of business benefit. Until and unless you are able to identify that, like, I'm saying doing proof of concept will not make much of a sense. Obviously, okay, it will give you some sense of how the technology works. It will give you some amount of learning, and but I think end of the day, when you try to actually, apply it in the business, identifying a solid business case, which is very, very important. So I suggest, like, identify a very strong business case, see that, okay, what will be the scale up opportunity, right? When you scale it up, how big how big that would be, right? So I think that is very important to identify at an early stage and invest in those areas, right? And there you go for a proof of concept, and then do probably a pilot, and then actually take it forward, right? Because otherwise, if you don't have that clarity, I understand at times it may be difficult, but I think most of the time, if you're able to do it right, I think that your success rate goes up, right? And it's important, right? You can't just try too many things and then have only few successes, right? Then it creates a trust deficit, right? I would prefer generally, you pick up few things, where you are very clear that okay, that will have a significant impact on the business, and go behind them, right? And then make sure it works, right? So I think in our organization, what we try to do, we identify those opportunity areas, and then we do a lot of debate internally and say that, okay, fine, how big is that big, right? And let's look at it like, if you are able to make it a success, right? What is the next step? So those questions, it's better to discuss in the beginning. That's what we do, and we have seen that is yielding better results, right? Because then you get the business support, and the business is ready to then invest in those, technologies. Yeah. So that's how it works.
I think I agree with you. The foundation of what you want to, the foundation layer is absolutely important for us to be able to really then scale up our digital initiatives. I am getting a time check. So Gagan, I'll quickly come to you. What's next new uh, for you and for HDFC Securities in terms of digital?
See, I guess financial services, obviously, and particularly stock market, has been a very different industry. The whole retail investments and the larger investments industry, right? It has always transformed slightly later before the transformed and the cab transformed and the food delivery transformed. So, but now obviously, financial evolution, the whole fintech word has been used quite a lot. I think one of the big reasons in finance revolution started a couple of years late is because of security and people's personal money being used there, and therefore there was a lot of focus on everybody being very careful about anything going digital from the customer end. Right? One of the things that I have seen in the last 6-7 years is that when huge transformation was happening across the industries, the transformation in financial services was slower. It was happening, but it was slower because there was a chunk of customers who really wanted to go the old way. Right? But now, last 18 months, I think that is one of the biggest inflection point for the industry. Right? The customer side has drastically changed. While the industry changes that happened and regulator has been very, really supportive in the digital transformation, last 18 months, I think customers' expectations have changed, right? The number of customers who used to always talk to our relationship team saying, ki, okay, I can do it online, but ek baar mil lo types, right? That has drastically changed. Now all those people are okay. So that part of customers have changed. So I think this whole thing which has happened has been, while it unfortunate for many people, this one thing has surely happened that now customers are okay with handling finance digitally fully. For those, many people were okay and many were not. So now everybody is, right? So that has really helped scaling and rolling out all our transformation initiatives across the board. And I see a large amount of big things happening in the fintech space. And that's the last line. As we become more small volume centric, the sachet based approach of retailing coming significantly more in the financial investment space. That is one of the biggest changes I think I'll see from a customer angle. I think technology angle we have discussed enough. From a customer angle, I think making investments of 10 rupees or 100 rupees will start happening. That whole experimentation will start happening a lot more because all of that will become more streamlined. So that is a big change I will see, I think. And there are two big things that I think I could point out in the little time we have. Did we lose Biswajit? Yeah, I think we lost Biswajit. So
Looks like.
should I ask Anirban? Anirban, can you kind of help us conclude? I think we're at the end of the session and we need a Q&A now.
Yes, Mr. Singlab. Hi, gentlemen. I'll love to take this up on behalf of Vishwajit. We have a couple of questions coming in from the audience while you guys were engaged in conversation. One question, very simple, and I think we experienced some bit of it today, which is, with work from home becoming the new norm, how bandwidth constraints can be overcome. I think that's one of the major challenges that, ironically, we all as technology emerges are facing. Uh, Anybody can take that up. Maybe Arijit, you can start. Arijit, you're on mute.
Sorry, if I can kind of get the question again. The question is, when we are working from home today, how can the bandwidth constraints be overcome? That was the question.
Yep.
A very simplistic answer would, of course, be kind of, requiring more bandwidth. But what is more important is today, if you see, and I spoke about it, kind of organizations having the right collaboration platforms, right? We had kind of very disparate collaboration platforms which were there earlier. But what I've seen organizations really kind of adopt during these times is they have had a kind of a paradigm shift and a very accelerated shift towards having the right employee collaboration platforms. The unification of voice, your data, your conferencing, everything can happen from anywhere, any place. And the good part is today, you don't need to be in your house to kind of attend office, right? People are actually, I've seen they're kind of taking some time off, going back to some hill stations, but work does continue. Yes, you do have to have the basic bandwidth available, the Wi-Fi available. And I think this, with the advent of 5G coming in, with Wi-Fi 6 coming in, I think the bandwidth constraints will slowly go off, right? And that will be the right time for us to kind of then get all the new collaboration platforms, which can then kind of really explode when the bandwidth constraint really does not remain anymore.
Since you said that, I'm just before going to others, quickly, how can, given that we spoke about work from home, given that you spoke about the new collaborations, how can you, or how you as a company's leader are looking to sort of make sure that you help people maintain the pace of digital transformation?
At Tata Communication, we see ourselves as a digital ecosystem enabler, right? Where we are kind of continuously augmenting and enriching our competence and service offerings. And as Subrata alluded, we also believe in taking an assessment-led approach to understand customers' current estate and recommend the transformation strategy, keeping in mind the 3 pillars of people, processes, and technology. So fundamentally, we kind of enable a managed digital estate across next generation networks, including software-defined, offer collaboration platforms for customers to build upon, manage multiple hybrid cloud from the data center to the edge, and all of this completely underpinned by a very, very strong layer of enterprise security. Because we do understand that our customers' landscape is complex. And while we always have the larger approach of digital smart strategy in mind, we usually start with a specific business problem or initiative, and that can either be theme-based, like improving customer experience, improving productivity, managing risk, managing cost, etc., or any other pain point for our customers or an area of growth. Then we kind of map it into specific technology interventions, like secure network transformation. It could be secure cloud, unified collaboration. So fundamentally, we start with the business objectives of our customers, convert them into themes, and then into technology objectives, and then move into the execution phase.
So talking about execution, gentlemen, going back to probably Vinod here, how are bandwidth constraints? Are there bandwidth constraints sort of, creating a hurdle for you? Quickly, sir, because we're running out of time a bit.
No, I think already Arijit has answered the question. So it's right now all the collaboration tools which are there, I think they are, I would say, right sized for the companies, and companies who have invested, they need to really look at which tool, which platform is going to solve their problems. Because if the scale is too high, then you need to obviously have a lot more, I would say, bandwidth requirements also. I think as we talk about 5G and you look at the way last 2 years, at least after the pandemic has hit, So the options for bandwidth, and data has become quite cheap now. So I think it's going to improve further. I think the bigger question is that are companies investing in the right tools which help not work from home, work from anywhere actually. So that should be the model where people can take literally their laptop wherever they want to work.
So I take that completely. Data is going to get cheaper, and of course, if we're investing in the right tools. Shubhrata sir, your comments. You're on mute, sir.
Yeah, so there is no denying of the fact that the bandwidth requirements have gone up, and it will go up, right? As we start using more and more data, as people are working from anywhere, the requirements will go up, right? And obviously, I think now if you see that the video conferencing, I mean most of the time when you are doing these video calls, right? Like in a pre-COVID environment, not too many people were using video calls, right? But now in the new environment, it is going to happen, right? And bandwidth requirement will increase, but at the same time also you must understand, I think all of us can see that cost of bandwidth is also coming down, right? Very clearly, right? So I think people and also the technology is also improving, so you will have better compression, which will be able to help you to manage your bandwidth better. Obviously, you need to invest in the right technologies, as Arijit and Vinod has mentioned, right? I think those things will be very, very important for any company to look at it, right? Yeah.
Speaking about bandwidth, Bishwajit is back. Before I hand it over to him, I have a quick question for Gagan sir. Gagan sir, obviously about the bandwidth, but there's a specific question that has come for you, which says that, do you see a new set of customers entering the financial market? Are they the one who will drive the change, and they'll be fearless enough to take risks? With that, please answer the question, and then I'll hand it back to Bishwajit.
Yeah, the question is about the younger audience, I think. While I appreciate the question from Shrikant, I would also like to add that they are not going to enter, they have already entered. I'm already having a double digit, more than 10% percentage of customers below 22 years of age. So Shrikant, the right answer is that it has already entered, and it is even faster than I think what you are thinking, what I am thinking, and we are just doing our best to keep up with the pace. So right now, my new acquisitions of customers, more than 10% are below 22 years of age. That is how we are already there. So that way, yes, they are fearless, and that is where we also need, as I talked about, a sachet-based approach. They will do a lot of fearless activity on smaller sizes, and slowly and steadily they will learn and move up into the market much faster than what we did. And therefore, we are trying to prepare ourselves fully for that.
Thanks, Anirban. Thank you for holding the fort. Isn't it? I mean, it would have to happen, right? In a digital conversation, bandwidth would have to plonk off. But what do you do about it, right? And Gagan, I can't agree more with you. I think micro investment is where the young generation is. Also because I think they are much more aware of finances than at least I was when I was their age, right? Which is a good outlook for the rest of humanity also. I'm sorry I missed a fair bit of it, but just to round it off.
The interesting part is when you were off, the question was about bandwidth only.
Okay. So I missed a good part of it. I think to round it off, I wanted to come back to Arijit. I don't know if you answered this while I was not there, Arijit, but Tata Communications plays a role in almost the entire value chain of the digital transformation, right? How is Tata Communications really helping your customers go through this entire digital transformation journey?
So when you were logged off, I did answer that question. So that was kind of covered. But let me just do a little bit of summarization of what we kind of discussed today. So I think all of us acknowledge that the present short-term challenges and disruptions are forcing enterprises to accelerate the pace of the digital transformation. And for this to be sustainable, they need to look to start having this integrated conversation, create hyper-connected ecosystems, and the other stuff we spoke about. So it is all going to be about really looking at your application layer, your data, your infrastructure connectivity, your collaboration, your security landscape as a cohesive integrated whole, and not as really individual and disjointed parts. And in summary, I think the organizations which will succeed will kind of take a quantum leap towards extreme digitization by creating an end-to-end digital enterprise, like we spoke, infused with intelligent workflows that enable growth, kind of bring in agility, bring in efficiencies, foster innovation. And like Vinod spoke, end of the day, it all starts and ends with the customer. So whatever we do needs to ensure that the customer journeys are more intelligent, seamless, contactless, and most importantly, consistent across the multiple channels of interaction which most of the organizations have with their customers.
Sure. So I think that's a brilliant a summary as we'll ever have, Arijit. If I can just sort of have an vocal word cloud, if there is such a thing, of what I heard throughout the entire conversation, right? We talked about platforms which allow us to fail quick, sort of a two-door policy saying, I can walk in and then I can walk back if the decision doesn't work out. The blast radius is fairly small. Obviously, human-centric design, all to do with experience as well as transparency and adaptability. What I really liked was the mindset of converged technologies rather than looking at them as different isolated pieces. Of course, hyper-connectedness is a brilliant any which ways concept to drive towards. And finally, I'm going to end with what Gagan said. Embrace the chaos, because it's a matter of transform or perish, right, for all of us. So therefore, embrace the chaos. It's not going to go away. Try and organize the chaos rather than, if there is such a thing, rather than make it go back to what it used to be in terms of straight-laced, etc. I think I had a brilliant time. Hopefully, we'll get to see each other in real life very soon. Have a quick drink maybe with each other. And Subroto, go Argentina. I know Sunday, eagerly wait for Sunday. So hopefully that will be a brilliant match.
Yeah.
We hope
Just
to
on
see
a lighter note to end, the part of the country me and Subroto come from, there are only two countries which exist in soccer. One is Argentina, one is Brazil.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that Subroto is a Brazilian fan, and so am I. So I will be rooting for Brazil on Sunday morning. Yes.
Yes, because they play the game beautiful, right?
Yeah.
They play it with true beauty. So with that, Anirban, I am handing off to you. And if you are a true long, I'm guessing you will be up on Sunday night and morning watching the game too.
Oh, absolutely. I am with Subroto on that. I am all for Messi and all for one. So, with that, I mean, one very short sentence to sort of sum up the discussion, as you said, with what Gagan sir said, that it's either go digital. Uh, with that, I would like to thank all the speakers and the moderator for sort of holding such wonderful, insightful conversation. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the delegates and attendees for joining this insightful and interesting discussion. We look forward to bringing you more such wonderful sessions under the aegis of CT Unwired. This is your host, Anirban Ghoshal, signing off. Stay healthy.